The following is an actual quote from the current President of the United States. Quote, "One of the things that I take solace from is I don't think I'll find any European leader that thinks I'm not up to the job." So in other words, if I follow the logic correctly, since nobody here has said to my face that I'm a bumbling, senile, crappy pants buffoon who can't tell his ass from a hole in the ground, that means I must be doing a great job. They like me. They really like me. Now, frankly, if you're not humiliated by this as an American, there is something fairly seriously wrong with you, I think. Having reduced his own country to a 5-alarm dumpster fire of hyperinflation and violent crime and mass homelessness and open borders and gay porn in kindergarten with the worst approval rating at the 14-month mark of any president in recorded history, Joe Biden is so desperate for approval and approbation that he now brags in public about not being insulted by his European counterparts. He probably doesn't realize they just do it behind his back anyway. Now, watching Joe Biden troll for the crack cocaine of personal respect on the world political stage is a lot like watching Hunter Biden pick through the carpet for bits of Parmesan cheese. We saw a similarly embarrassing display last year during Joe's first European trip for, what was it, the G4 or G7 or whichever one of those stupid, odious globalist circle jerks it was, when he was openly just reveling in the fact that he was now finally a member of the only club that he ever had wanted to be in. This man was as joyous as a semi-animated cadaver can possibly get. He was practically whistling zippity-doo-dah out his asshole. Yep. Just hanging out with my buddies, my peers, my contemporaries. Got Boris over there, and Angela, and Justin, and Emmanuel, and that fella from down under. But yeah, we just been sitting around in the old locker room here, talking about the things that world leaders talk about. And the other world leaders are literally smirking and laughing at him behind his back. Boris Johnson's got this look on his face like, get a load of this guy, you seeing this? If you thought Trump was an embarrassing presence on the world stage, and there certainly were times when he was that, but the Geritol Joe European backslapping comedy tour doesn't cause you a single pang of discomfiture, then I don't think it's unreasonable to say there is something seriously wrong with the space between your ears where your brain is supposed to live. If you are so blinded by the double-barreled intellectual poison shotgun of partisan demagoguery and the social media hate machine to the point where you can look at Joe Biden's performance since he arrived in Poland and say, "Yup, that's my guy. Everything's cool. This is exactly the loopy, confused, self-debasing manner in which I want the American president to lead the free world," then I think you're really not the sort of person I want driving a car on public roadways or operating any sort of dangerous machinery while we're at it, up to and including a garbage disposal. But just ask AOC how it works. And then tell her you want to bang her, because she loves that. And you even have to love the way he paraphrased, the way that he phrased this statement. First, he manages to turn it into a double negative, because of course he does. And just, if you felt the bizarrely misplaced need to express the sentiment he was attempting to express, wouldn't you at least state it in the affirmative sense? Wouldn't you say, "I'm confident everybody here in Europe thinks I'm up to the job," rather than, "I don't think you'll find any European leader that thinks I'm not up to the job." And granted, the fact that a U.S. president in his second year in office would ever be reduced to the point of finding solace, and he even used the word solace, for God's sake. Pull yourself together, man. But in the approval of Europeans, and to say so in public, that would be no less horrifying even if he had done it in a grammatically coherent way. But it is kind of a fun cherry on top of the sundae of crushing national humiliation. The fact that he tries to vindicate himself with a sentence that would get a big red line marked through it if he wrote it in a middle school book report. And the teacher would write in the margin, "This is a double negative, Joey. You know better than this. Don't make us hold you back another grade. Everybody's sick enough of your ass as it is with all your grab-assing and hair sniffing." Now, moving on to the next thing that's so laughable you could never make it up. Just like I told you would happen, Ketanji Brown Jackson now has the necessary votes in hand to become Justice Jackson, and that is going to become official tomorrow after the formality of the Senate vote, which will not require a vice presidential tiebreaker because, really? Do you think anything could have happened in that confirmation hearing to cause Senator Willard Romney of Utah, a man who rather elegantly fits into Winston Churchill's description of Clement Attlee, a sheep in sheep's clothing, to actually vote against the first black woman, black female, black birthing person, ever nominated to the high court? Willard Romney is a guy who lays awake at night trying to think of new ways to prove he's not a racist. This guy participated in an honest-to-God Black Lives Matter march, even as that same organization's operatives had half a dozen American cities actively engulfed in flames. Performative non-racism is one of the things that defines the Republican Party in the 21st century. It's why they lose so often, even when they're on the correct side of nearly every issue. And Willard Romney is the godfather of the art form. It comes as naturally to him as strapping a dog to the roof of an SUV. And what happened when you got a Republican who didn't give a shit what names they called him? Trump. That's what happened. And he won convincingly, possibly twice. Speaking of that, did they ever get that water main fixed in Atlanta? I hope they did, because it sounded pretty serious. It was so bad, 4 other states had to stop counting too. It's a miracle nobody got killed. Have I laid it on thick enough, or should I keep going? From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, the last outpost of civilization in the blackened hellscape formerly known as California. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the program. Happy Friday. I hope your week has arrived at an agreeable conclusion. I am your eponymous host and humble servant. And we got a reminder this week of the extent to which most people simply do not pay attention to things. Not just current events per se, but even movements of the social and cultural tides that have been ongoing for many years now in some cases. So now, all of a sudden, I have had people remarking to me, "Hey, did you get a load of this Supreme Court nominee? She doesn't even know what a woman is. What's up with that? Where did this craziness come from?" And the thing I always feel like saying is, yeah, welcome to like 4 years ago, Captain Up to Date. 4 years ago, our friends on the left were obsessed, maniacally obsessed, with drawing a hard dividing line of distinction between men and women, because the political exigencies of the day demanded that women occupy the top spot on the hierarchical pyramid of officially sanctioned victim groups. Why? Because Brett Kavanaugh was nominated to the Supreme Court, and Brett Kavanaugh is just about the squarest guy who ever lived. A guy who keeps a day planner in high school is doggedly committed to his squareness. I guarantee you that guy was a virgin on his wedding night. But since there was nothing in real life to go after him for, either in his judicial career or in his personal and family life, well, the media Democrat complex did what any group of reasonable adult professionals would do. They tried to frame him as the kingpin of a high school rape gang. They did the 21st century version of what James Carville used to call dragging a dollar bill through a trailer park, and they managed to produce a couple of clearly very troubled women who were willing to sit and lie under oath on national television about having been victim to the heinous sexual predations of the dorky sweater vest wearing 17-year-old kid with the day planner, whose most grievous sin is drinking beer when he wasn't yet 21. But Cory Booker got us to the bottom of that one. Cory Booker, about whom the most unkind thing I can think to say is that even with Mazie Hirono present, he is still the dumbest son of a bitch in the room. They give him the lofty, crucially important assignment of going through Kavanaugh's high school yearbook and interrogating him line by line on its contents. So right here, where it says, "Congratulations, best of luck, let's hang out this summer." What that really means is, let's go drug and rape a bunch of unconscious victims at some house parties, right? That's what that means. That would be fair to say, right, Judge Kavanaugh? And this, of course, was the line of questioning that culminated in the single greatest question ever asked in a Supreme Court nomination hearing, when Spartacus Booker said with the utmost gravity and conviction, quote, "Do you like beer?" It's been 4 years since that whole clown show, and it still beggars human credulity that this was a real thing that actually happened, and it was done by United States senators. They didn't have any actual problem with Brett Kavanaugh, of course. He just carried the indelible moral stain of having been nominated by the Orange Antichrist, and so he had to be destroyed. It's nothing personal, it's just business. But that enterprise wound up failing, and rightly so, though none of its authors faced any recriminations or consequences for having authored it. But once it was over, there was no longer a reason for women to be occupying the capstone position in the holy pyramid of righteous grievance. And they were moved out of that spot fairly quickly, and the transgenders were moved into the penthouse apartment at Victimhood Towers, which remains their happy domicile up to the present day. If you've been paying attention to this stuff for the past several years, then you know it wasn't any sort of surprise when Judge Jackson refused Senator Blackburn's request to provide a definition for the word woman. If she gives a straight, honest answer, then the entire edifice of transgender supremacy, which is built on foundations about as sturdy as a sandcastle in a tsunami, comes tumbling down. This stuff is at such an impossible fever pitch of mass hysteria right now that people are being thrown off Twitter just for pointing out that 10 years ago, the artist now known as Assistant Health Secretary whatever, Rachel Levine, Admiral of the Fleet, Defender of the Faith, was a 52-year-old guy named Richard Levine who had a wife and some kids. Transgender orthodoxy is now so rigid, so pervasive that they think they can retroactively change past events. So there never was a Richard Levine. There was only Rachel. He just didn't realize he was Rachel yet. Rachel was in there the whole time, waiting to burst out like a fabulous chrysalis from the oppressive cocoon of heterosis normativity. And they've done a similar thing with the actress Ellen Page, who is now calling herself, God, it gets confusing, the actor Elliot Page. But if you go on IMDb now, every role that was played by the actress Ellen Page is now listed as having been played by the actor Elliot Page, which makes me really confused about how I am supposed to view the scene in the movie Super, wherein the character played by the actress Ellen Page uses her female reproductive organs to engage in forcible sexual intercourse with the character played by the actor Rainn Wilson. Was this somehow a male-on-male gay rape scene and I was just too unwoke to see it? Because what other conclusion am I supposed to draw when the actual credits of the film are now telling me that there were only 2 male actors in that scene? When you're trying to build a world that makes that little sense, you have to resist at all costs providing a definition for the word woman or the word man. Matt Walsh has a video where he was on the Dr. Phil show recently debating some transgender activists. I think it was a couple months back, and he asks one of them the question, what is a woman? And the trans activists are unable to come up with a non-tautological answer. They just keep muttering things like, well, a woman is a person who identifies as a woman. And it's the exact same thing they do with racism. You may have seen this one video of Henry Rogers, stage name Dr. Ibram X. Kendi, at one of these events he does where rich, self-loathing white liberals pay several $100s apiece to sit in a room and listen to this idiot say things no sane person could possibly take seriously. I think this one was in Aspen, so it was an even richer, even dumber crowd than he's used to. But during the Q&A portion, somebody asks him the very simple question, what is racism? And he gives a similarly tortured, similarly tautological, similarly nonsensical response. Well, racism is when people have racist attitudes and do racist things. Look at my dreadlocks, aren't they luxurious? Refusing to define the terms they use is an integral part of the scam these hucksters have been successfully running for far, far, far too long now. None of their buzzwords and phrases ever receives a precise definition, because then their silly arguments are too easy to demolish. I mean, it's not that difficult as it is, but I digress. When your entire worldview can be defeated by the kid from kindergarten cop accurately observing that boys have a penis and girls have a vagina, then you are doing the intellectual equivalent of drinking turpentine and pissing on a brush fire hoping you don't get burned. But it gets worse. The stuff with gender politics, those aren't the most egregious examples of this phenomenon. For that, I am going to turn to my state's governor, Gavin the Gravel Gargler. Now, Some of the conservatives here in California, and yes, they do exist, have been mounting an effort these past couple weeks to get the state government to temporarily suspend certain of the gas taxes, the sum total of which adds up to about $1.30 per gallon. But the governor has flatly refused to contemplate any such course of action, and guess what his justification is? I don't need to tell you. You already know. We can't have a gas tax holiday, says Gavin, because climate change. Now just take a moment to think about the spectacularly long daisy chain of dubious claims that are contained just within that one short statement. Because climate change is the mother of all undefined terms. So let's try to unpack it from the beginning. The first implicit claim is this: the planet is currently undergoing a warming trend. All right, that's fine. Most everybody can agree on that. It is an objectively true thing. The second implicit claim is that the warming is an unambiguously bad thing, both for the planet in general and the human race in particular. But this is not a fact and evidence. This is a subjective claim. The third implicit claim is that the observed warming trend owes solely or primarily to human, industrial, and commercial activity. And this claim is even more tenuous than the second one because it completely ignores the actual main cause of temperature fluctuations on planet Earth, namely the variable activity of the gigantic flaming ball of hydrogen that sits 93 million miles away from us out there in space. There is already one hell of a lot of subjectivity in this equation, and we're not anywhere near done yet. The fourth implicit claim, and this is where we start getting into cuckoo land, is that human beings are so all-powerful, we can directly manipulate planetary weather conditions to our liking just by passing certain laws and levying certain taxes against certain people. The fifth implicit claim is that an entity as small as California, which contains only 12% of the U.S. population, which in turn contains only 4.2% of the world population, is so crucially important to the battle against the sun monster that even a 6-week gas tax holiday might make the difference between the broad sunlit uplands of a better tomorrow and the fiery destruction of the planet and every living thing on it. You probably think I'm finished with the implicit assumptions, but I ain't, because I haven't even mentioned one of the biggest, most laughable ones. So we're assuming there's a warming trend. We're assuming it's bad. We're assuming it's 100% our own fault. We're assuming it can only be fixed by taking more of the citizenry's money, placing more limits on personal autonomy, and building vast new government bureaucracies. And those bureaucracies have to be constructed at the national, state, and local level alike. But what's the thing they tell us that's most impossible to take seriously? They tell us that if we meet all of their crazy demands, change everything about the way we live our lives, then the reward we can look forward to is that the global mean temperature will be 0.3 degrees cooler on average in 100 years' time after we are all dead. They tell us that 0.3 degrees is the difference between an idyllic garden planet and a fiery inferno of misery and death. They tell us humanity could never possibly acclimate to living on a planet that's 0.3 degrees hotter on average. And most incongruously of all, they tell us this is science, and not some wacky New Age neo-paganist state religion whose real endgame is to make the richest people in the world even richer and the rest of us poorer and less free. We have to stop letting these maniacs deal in terms they refuse to define. They only enjoy the benefit of the doubt if we give it to them. If they predicate an argument on an appeal to women's rights, make them define what a woman is. If they accuse you of racism, make them define what a racist is. If they call you a climate denier, make them explain what they think climate change actually is. When they moan about threats to our democracy, make them define what democracy is. When they call someone an insurrectionist, make them explain what insurrection is. And if they accuse you of being a ruggedly handsome slab of hot, seething masculinity, kindly thank them for the compliment. Thank you very much indeed for watching. See you next week. Here's wishing everyone a pleasant tomorrow and a delightful, edifying weekend. Do not comply. Get off my lawn.